Welcome to Stacking the Dealer, the podcast where we talk cars, sales strategy, and what it really takes to win in the auto industry. No fluff, no corporate scripts, just real conversations from inside the dealership world. Anthony, how was your week this week inside the dealership world?
It was amazing. Today, I was hoping that we could talk a little bit about that. Last month, we had a killer month, and so I wanted to talk about how discipline in your personal life transfers to your business life. How when you develop discipline outside of the dealership, it transitions and helps you run a more successful dealership. That was what I was hoping to discuss today. And as many of you know, I just came off of doing 75 Hard, and 75 Hard is a mental toughness program where you have to read every day, work out outside, work out inside. They have to be spaced apart 4 hours. You have to follow a diet, no alcohol, which I don't drink anyway, and you have to take a picture every single day. And subsequently, we had the best month last month that we have had in probably, 24 months. We sold 195 cars. So how did what I was doing outside of the dealership affect the dealership?
Let me ask you this. Is there something you can like pinpoint to and say this, or is it one of those things where, if you keep doing all of the right things, like you keep eating good and like all these little things all of a sudden make one big thing at the end? Do you think it was a bunch of little things, or could you pinpoint and go, I changed this, and that was, that's 25% higher than your average sales?
Yeah, I think that it comes down to one big thing that is, you can attribute it to one big thing, but that one big thing is lots of little things added up. Every morning I wake up with what I call a decided advantage. So the day before, I did everything that I could possibly do in order to give me an advantage over my competition tomorrow that I could possibly do. So for example, every day, as you know, Josh, I read. Right now I'm reading a book which I carry with me everywhere I go, whatever book I'm reading. It's called Influence by Robert Cialdini. If you are in the car business and you have not read this book, you are absolutely crazy. Doing things like this gives me an advantage over all of my competition in the car business. When you couple that with the fact that I'm in the best shape that I've been in years. I'm sleeping better than I've slept in years. I'm eating better than I've ate in years. I'm doing all the things that I should be doing to become the person that I want to be. I think that those are the things that add up to giving me this strong competitive edge every single day. And it's something that I decide every single day. It's a decision that I make in the morning when I wake up.
Yeah, I truly believe discipline is what changes people's lives. And we talk about motivation. I think it was Inky Johnson said, there I go with the nose. Now it's in my head. I think it was Inky Johnson that said, motivation gets you going, discipline takes you home. That's definitely not verbatim, but that was about it. And it's true. You can be motivated for a day, a week, but it's really discipline that will change your life. And if you figure out what you want to be disciplined with, and then the hard part is doing it and sticking to it. And that's why a lot of people fail at certain tasks, but you've got to figure out what that why is and get through it. And then, like you said, is once you get used to tuning out those voices in the back of your head that are saying, oh, you don't need to do this. You can have the ice cream today. You went on a walk and you worked out really good all week. You can skip the gym today and have that milkshake or whatever it is. You learn to tune those voices out and get past it because you have your eye on the prize. That's a game changer. Business, professional, it doesn't matter. Personal, that'll change your life.
I think that it's very important to spend your life getting very, very good at doing things you hate doing and to come off like you love them when you're doing them. I think Mike Tyson said that. He said you have to get really, really good at doing the things that you hate to do to the point where it looks like you love them when you're doing them. And really that's discipline. And so what I say with that is use motivation, to find discipline, to create habits. Once you've created a habit, you're really in a situation where you're drawn to that thing. It's not even something that you have to attempt to do. Like, for example, with me reading, if I go a day without reading, I feel like absolute shit. And I know a lot of car guys hate reading, but I need to tell you that reading has absolutely transformed my life. I mean, like, for example, when you go through the different chapters in this book, like reciprocity or liking, or all the different things that it talks about, the levers of influence, and what type of competitive advantage that this book gives you when you start talking to your salespeople about the things that have been placed in this book. I'll tell you, it's one of the best books I've ever read, and I'm only 2 chapters in. I don't even know what else to say.
I don't think I've read that book. I don't think I'll have to add that to my list. I'm an audio guy, so I know a lot of car guys aren't readers, and I used to be a physical book but I think because I drive so much now that I've definitely shifted to audio books. But I think there's just no excuse while you're working out, while you're driving, whatever it is. If you're not pouring into yourself, then you just don't care about yourself, really. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Jim Rohn says, with a formal education, you can make a living. When you're self-educated, you can make a fortune. If you focus on learning every single day and getting better and working on yourself harder than you work on anything else, I'm telling you, it pays dividends. There is nothing in this world like working on yourself every single day. My goal is to be 1% better. We've talked about that 1,000 times. And, I know you don't want it, and I don't want this to turn into a typical podcast where we're coming in here and we're talking about all the things that everybody already knows. I think it's really important to challenge ourselves, become the best version of ourselves so that we can see how much that benefits the other people around us.
Yeah. Yep. And discipline's key. Let's talk about, if we're going to stay on this subject here, let's talk about what are some things you can do to stay disciplined? Because it's not as simple as just, yes, I want to do that. We all know that motivation will get you going. And then the discipline is, what else did Inky say? Something about sticking to it when the mood that you set it in wears off, type of a thing. It's easy for us to be in that mood and go, yes, I'm going to go for a jog tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning rolls around, the alarm clock goes off at 5 o'clock. That's when the voices in your head start telling you, hit snooze, hit whatever. What are some of the things that we can do as humans, knowing that our brain is going to try and talk us out of everything? What are some of the things you think we can do? You
just did it right there. You said, I'm going to go for a run tomorrow morning. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. So a lot of times we do that.
Side note, can I tell you that I did that? I heard that quote, the best time to plant an apple tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. When I bought my house in 2015, I wanted to plant an apple tree. I wanted Honeycrisp apples. Year after year after year. Never did. 2 years ago, I planted an apple tree. I did find out that Honeycrisps don't self-pollinate, so I had to plant 2 apple trees. Last year, I had Honeycrisp apples in my backyard for the first time.
I think the first thing is, we talked about it just a little bit earlier, you have to get really good at defeating that voice in your head. Will Smith says there's 2 things in life you need to master. That's running and reading. Reading because everything that you've gone through, or been through, or going to go through, somebody else has gone through, been through, and has written a book about it, and you can read that book and learn something from it. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to apply what it is that they've said, but you can definitely learn some different applications that you can use in your life. And running, because when you go out and you run, that voice is constantly telling you in your mind, all right, we've had enough, give up, you don't need to go another mile. And when you learn to push past that voice, that's really the key to discipline, is learning to push past that voice that is there to trick you and get you to do things that you shouldn't be doing. You have to live inside of your own mind. A lot of us want to lead, and a lot of us want to tell others what to do, but we haven't even figured out how to tell ourselves what to do. And I think a lot of people, especially that work for me, they can see that, right? So if you're living a certain life, other people aspire to live, then they will do what you ask them to do. Whereas if you're telling them, hey, you need to work on yourself outside of work. You need to read. You need to become better. You need to push yourself to get to the next level. And you're not living that life. I think you lose a lot of respect from the people that are working for you. And so when people see you actually doing what you say, I think it inspires them to do the things that you recommend to them.
It's like getting an overweight personal trainer, right?
That's right. Who's ever done that? Sometimes I go to the gym, see some of these trainers, and I think to myself, you don't even have enough discipline to make yourself look good. Why would anybody pay you to work out with you? I don't know.
Let me ask you this, though. Does it matter if that person, let's say they're big and overweight, but they get me working out the way I want to, et cetera? Does that really matter? Or do you think because of who they are and their physical appearance, and because they're trying to sell, working out, that's why you're looking at their physical appearance, do you think that immediately cancels out 95% of the people that may hire them?
Well, I mean, look, here's the fact of the matter. I just joined Crunch. They opened up about 2.5 months ago, and there is a whole slew of different trainers, okay? You have really, really fit trainers. You have averagely fit trainers. You have trainers that look like they don't belong training. I mean, and everything in between those three spectrums. I see the physically fit trainers aren't as busy as some of the trainers who aren't physically fit. And then it makes you wonder, do these people have a stronger personality? Do they understand psychology better? Are they able to make people feel better about themselves? Does an overweight, that's in this book right here. Talks about that in this book right here, where people gravitate towards people that are like them. So maybe a person that comes to the gym that's overweight finds a person that doesn't necessarily look the best but has lost 200 pounds. And because they're able to relate to that person, you have a situation where that person may get more people that they used to look like. So, you bring up a good point about the fact that, and maybe I stand corrected, that does it really matter when it comes to, the overall performance of that particular trainer? For me, I think that in life, I have this vision of the person that I want to become. And for me, it's about building gardens, not chasing butterflies, right? So my whole life, I chased money and I chased success. And then I started to realize, well, I'm going to become a person that embodies success and allows success to come to me. And so for me, that's being in the best shape of my life. It's being a good father, being a good husband, being a good friend, being a great leader, being a great business owner. And all of these things I had to learn from others, right? I mean, I had to pick up books and learn from other people's experiences and the way that they did things. And this is when my life really started to magnify.
Yes. And I do believe that if you're at work leading a team and you're telling them to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not living that life, it becomes very hard for them to respect you. It's a little different, I think, personal trainers trying to sell personal training, although I imagine that some personal trainers don't even get a look because of their appearance on both ends of that spectrum, right? If I'm a little overweight, I might not go for that guy with the six-pack because now I'm intimidated by them. And vice versa. I might not go to the person who doesn't look like they're fit because I might think that they don't know how to get me in shape. So the appearance, right or wrong, definitely matters. But I do believe that when you're leading a team, you have got to be living that lifestyle that you're telling them. If you're telling them to go to bed early on Friday night so they can hit the ground running on Saturday, and then you're at the bar drinking till 2 a.m, it's going to be hard for them to want to do the things that you say because you're saying, hey, you need to hit the ground running because it's going to be better for you. And then here you are not hitting the ground running. So I completely agree. I think that you've got to be able to live that life and then communicate the why to that person or that team as to why they need to do the things that you're asking or telling them to do. And everybody's why is going to be different. You know, it may be, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but it may be money. It may be, you know, it's going to enable them to spend some more time with their family, or maybe they want to get that boat that they can finally get, whatever that is. But you can communicate that why they need to be disciplined, why they need to read a book, why they need to do these things. And that's obviously the hard part, because everybody's different. Nobody thinks like you and me, definitely not. And if we can communicate that to them, I think it helps them receive our message a little bit better.
Yeah, I've always said this to everybody that works with me. Nobody works for me, everybody works with me. And if you're a manager or if you're a leader within my organization, you can't ask anybody to do anything that you're not willing to do yourself. And I live by that. If I say to you, hey, guys, we're behind, we need to come in and work, then I'll come in and work with you. You're definitely not going to catch me in a situation where I'm out on a beach relaxing and my team is working overtime. I've just never lived that life. I've always tried to lead by example. Now, I will tell you that one of the things, and I think we talked about this on another podcast, is that when I first started my business, I didn't have a lot of experience, and I lost a lot of good people because I wasn't a good leader. And so I've spent a lot of time over the last 6 or 7 years developing my leadership skills and studying the psychology of people to understand how to better communicate my points. And you and I, Josh, are both very hands-on. You're a lot more hands-on than I am nowadays, but I still actively communicate with my staff on a daily basis. We still do sales training, and you know, we talk about a lot of these things inside of that sales training. What's always been amazing to me is that you take a situation where you have a person like me who has overcome so much in life. You know, my dad leaving me, my mom leaving me, my grandmother dying, opening a business at 27 with no experience, becoming a multimillionaire. And so what's interesting to me is that when I talk to people and I give them advice, a lot of times those people don't take that advice. And that was very difficult for me growing up. I mean, excuse me, not really growing up because I was already grown up, but as I was 30. That's right. At 33, 34 years old, I couldn't understand why people didn't listen. And the fact of the matter is they didn't want the same things that I wanted, and that's okay, right? What you have to do is, as the coach or the leader of the team, you have to put the right people in the right positions. Not everybody's going to want to work 120 hours a week, but that doesn't mean that they're not a great employee. Not everybody is going to want to clean the bathrooms, but that doesn't mean that they're not a team player, right? So you have to put the right people in the right positions, and when you start to learn how to do that, you will be a lot more successful in running a car dealership. And if you are a salesperson or a service writer or a mechanic, whatever it is that you do at a dealership, you need to figure out what it is that motivates you, what it is that drives you, and you need to communicate that with your higher ups so that you come into work and that you're motivated and excited to do what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I think that communication piece is two ways, right? As leaders, we have to figure out how to effectively communicate to our teams, but also it's helpful. And sometimes you have to, when you're that, person trying to communicate to your leader, sometimes you got to let them know, hey, here's what motivates me. Here's what gets me going. I remember telling my horse trainer one time when I was getting going and this and that, and he was talking to another one of his clients and kind of pussyfooting around, to be honest with you. I told him when I went over for a lesson, I said, hey, I'm not fragile. You're not going to break me. I want to win more than I'm worried about my feelings hurt. So if I'm doing something wrong, now don't, light me up just to light me up, but tell me I'm doing something wrong. Tell me how to fix it. Tell me what I need to do. So everybody's a little bit different from that aspect. And I remember telling that something similar to one of my managers when I was going up. I go, hey, I want to win. I want to be the best ever. So don't go soft on me. You don't have to worry. I'm not fragile. You don't have to worry about hurting my feelings if it's helping me get better. That's all I want you to worry about. Some other people are different. They don't need to win at all costs. They don't need to be number one, and their feelings are important to them. And they, I'm probably not going to say I'm fragile, but feelings are important. And for me, I could care less. Like if I did something wrong or if I could do something better, you don't have to worry about how to phrase that to me to make me feel good about life. Just tell me, hey, I want it done this way, or it would be better if you did it this way. We could do more if we, blah, blah, blah.
What's really interesting is, that's the way that you communicate. That's the way I communicate. And because of that, we communicate well with each other. But a lot of people do not like to be communicated with that way. And I find that really interesting. And I'll tell you something else. One of the worst things that I ever did, and there are a lot of people in the car business that are guilty of this, is calling people out in front of other people. And I had to work really, really hard on this. And I had a lot of people come to me and say, Anthony, I'm intimidated to share my feelings with you because, you have this terrible habit of calling me out in front of, everybody. And I thought to myself, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to coach in private. And that's what I started doing. I started taking people to the side, and if I had something I wanted to talk to them about, I spoke to them in private about it, away from everybody. And when I praised, I always praised in public. So now I do the opposite, right? If I want to make a really big deal about something, I make sure I do it in front of everyone. And if I want to coach, I make sure that I take the person to the side and I do it by themselves. I also try to spend a considerable amount of time understanding how to communicate with each person inside of my staff. And the reason that I believe this is important is because as leaders, we're not here for people to meet us on our level. And a lot of us make that mistake. We think, well, I'm the owner, I'm the manager, I'm the general manager. People should communicate with me the way I want to communicate. And that's not the way it is. When you're a leader and you're a good leader, you learn to communicate with others on their level. And that's when you start making a huge impact on other people's lives.
Yeah. Yep. I completely agree. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard because it's human nature to want to communicate with people the way that we communicate, but very few people, especially like you and me, Anthony, very few people communicate like us. Very few people have kind of a calloused exterior where you're not going to hurt my feelings. I've got a callus that's built up from years and years in the car business, and it's just how I'm built and how I'm wired. I want to win more so than I am worried about having my feelings hurt. So let's figure out what we got to do. And then I'm happy when we're number one for the month, or we had a good month, or, I won a deal on my horse, or whatever it is. That's when I'm happy. And I don't care, what it took to get there. I'll put myself through torture in the gym, or whatever it is that we're trying to do good at. So, but not everybody's built like that, and that's not important to everybody. So I think learning to communicate that way, whatever way the employee or the spouse or the friend wants to be communicated to, it's difficult, especially when you're talking about spouses, because you're talking about, we probably didn't marry somebody who's exactly like us, otherwise we would have bumped our heads more than once. And you've got the two sexes are slightly different, contrary to what some people think. So you and I in particular, I know I struggle with the communication piece with Carrie sometimes, and she probably thinks I'm an asshole sometimes. Might have even called me that once or twice.
She told me all the time. The same thing with Erica. I remember this. I talked about it last podcast. I'd call Erica up. We'd sell 2 or 3 cars, and I'd call Erica up. And I'm just going to be straight with you guys. I'd go, you better go down there and tell those motherfuckers that we need to sell some fucking cars. I'm 28 years old. This is the way I acted. I mean, I wanted to win so fucking bad that I would have died to win. I used to tell, as a matter of fact, this was something, I'm going to tell you two stories, okay? One is my freight train story that Josh, I remember to this day talking to Josh and telling him this. I was in the sales room, and I was given a motivational talk. And so my motivational talk was, I'm a fucking train. I'm getting where the fuck I'm going. Either you're on board or you're standing in front of me. I don't give a fuck where you are. If you're in front of me, you're getting run the fuck over. And if you're on board, then you're coming with me. And if you're not on board, I'll go by myself. And I'll never forget. Yeah, Josh said to me one time, he said, Anthony, that you're not going to ever get anywhere like that. You need to learn to develop teams in order to get where you want to go. And one of my favorite people to listen to is Ed Milet, and I'll never forget this. Ed Milet said, I used to have this mentality where I was going to do everything on my own. I didn't give a shit, and my ears perked up when I was listening to this, because I was like, that's me. And he goes, but that was the wrong mentality. And here's how I changed that mentality. I was reading the Bible and I realized that Jesus had 12 apostles. And I thought to myself, if God can't do it without a team, how in the hell can Ed Milet do it without a team? And it changed my life. It was one of those things that I will never forget for all of my life. I will remember that statement. And it is absolutely true. In order to reach your fullest potential, you have got to learn to develop others. You have got to learn to make others leaders. And so for me, my mentality changed there, that I wanted to learn to develop leaders from that point forward.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if you've got a showroom floor full of leaders or whatever it is, you're going to be a better business.
That's right. And my mentality shifted. I stopped doing those talks. I mean, if you look at me talking to my sales staff 5 or 6 years ago, it was me, 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 me. And that mentality shifted maybe even 6 or 7 years ago over the.
And they don't care that you're a freight train.
That nobody cares. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I don't need to work at this place. I don't need to be.
That's your dream, Anthony. That's not my dream.
Absolutely right. And so what I've done is I've created an environment where now it's our dream, right? We identify our goals together. Here's what we want to do. And I treat others really, truly the way I would want to be treated. And because of that, everybody has kind of, gathered around me in this protective way where they want to do really good, where they want to be successful. And I'm dumbfounded at the different lessons that I've learned over the last 5 or 6 years that have been just critical to my success. Again, it starts with Andy Frisella just talking about reading. Every time I listen to a podcast, pick up a book, start with why. That was one that I read that I thought was amazing that I got from Andy Frisella. Another one was Zappos. And this was one that was really fundamental in learning to build culture at your place of business and how important it is to understand how to develop culture. And I'm telling you guys out there, you don't understand how important it is in order to reach the levels of success that I've reached inside of the car business. You cannot do it by yourself, period. Can't do it.
Nope, impossible. But there's some people that would prefer to have maybe a little bit less success and then not have to deal with other people and just do it themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that too. Everybody's got what their pinnacle is. Everybody's got what their success is, and it means different things to different people. Don't feel bad if your success is different than ours. We have our goals and things we want to achieve, and we're going to do that.
Train people well enough so they can leave. Treat them well enough so they won't want to.
Funny, I had a conversation with one of my technicians. We talked about training and C-level tech probably, and I had my A-tech in there, and we were chatting, and I said, yeah, I want to train you up. I want to grow you. And the A-tech leans over and he goes, yeah, you'll be a good job anywhere in the city then. He goes, kind of like, whoops, I didn't mean to say that. And I said, no, that's absolutely right. I want to train you up. I want to turn you into the type of technician where you could get a job anywhere in the city, but I want to treat you so good you don't want to go anywhere else. That's the goal. I don't want to have you, keep my thumb on you and keep you pushed down so that you can't go anywhere else, because then I've got a subpar employee. Doesn't do me any good. So I think there's a lot of managers that do that. They don't treat their staff well. They don't train them. They don't coach them. They don't do anything. And I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious, but it's in the back of their mind. Now they know that person's never going to go anywhere because they've got no value. I would rather add so much value to my team that they can go anywhere, but then treat them so good that they don't go anywhere.
I didn't always do that, straight up. I mean, I will tell you that when I first started in the business, because I'm such a money-motivated person, my thought process was completely opposite of that. It was, I'm going to pay people a lot of money, and it's not that I treated them bad, right? I didn't know how to lead, which could, in turn, if I'm being honest with myself, led to me not treating them the way that they deserve to be treated. For example, right, I remember I had this one manager, and I won't say his name, but a really great person. I mean, just a really great person. And he was having a baby, and, he was making probably $180,000 a year. His wife and him were having a baby, and he was making $180,000 a year. And he was talking to me about wanting more time off, and I'm like, you make all this money, you can't have any more time off. I need you here right now. You got to tell your wife to take care of the kids. And this was very much my mentality. I always wanted to be in a situation where my wife could be at home and take care of the kids so I could work. And that's me superimposing my beliefs and my ideas on this person. So what did he do? He went and took a job somewhere else, working half the time for half the money. So wouldn't it have been better of me to find two Adams, pay them what he made at the other job, and have them? Yeah, well, I didn't say his last name, but you take, he works, instead of working 80 hours, you give him a 40-hour work week, you cut his pay in half, and you get two people, right? And now they're making enough money to live, which is what they want. They're making enough money to pay their bills. They have time off with their family. And I'm telling you, I swear to God, the majority of people want that balance. You and I, we don't want balance. We don't know what balance is. And because of that, we try to get other people to live that unbalanced life, and it puts us in a situation where a lot of times we set ourselves up for failure with other people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was explaining to Roman, he was talking about balance, and I was explaining to him that I don't call it balance, I call it integration. How do I integrate my current life? How do I integrate my current situation, whatever it is, with what I've got going on? And that's where I think that some people mess up with balance, because balance is a teeter-totter. I got to give from one, get to the other. It's how can I integrate everything to where it works cohesively? That's the way I look.
For me, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't fucking believe in balance for Anthony Birdsong. But that doesn't necessarily mean, it actually absolutely doesn't mean that I don't believe in balance for other people, because I've seen other people try to live like me and fail miserably and end up hating because I pushed them to that point. But for me, I'm not a balanced person. I am a person that is going to become laser focused and so fucking obsessed with whatever it is that I'm doing because I hate to lose. I fucking hate to lose. I want to win worse than I want to breathe. If there is another person that is outperforming me, I want to understand why, and I want to get to the point where I am performing at least as good as they are. And that's just the way that I've always lived my life. I don't believe in balance. I think to reach the levels of success that I want to reach, you can't have balance, because the fact of the matter is, if you're living in excellence in one area of your life, other areas are going to suffer. Just think about it. If you're paying attention to your career, your marriage is going to suffer. And if you're paying attention to your marriage, your career is going to suffer. There is no real in between there, unless you're in a situation where, you find yourself a government job, you're making $90,000 a year, and you work 27 hours a week, and you get to spend time with your wife and your kids, and you're happy. For me, that's not what I want. I don't want that. I never wanted that. And I stopped trying to change other people's minds who did want that. So, what this podcast has been designed to do is create a situation where we are going to give you the advantages that you need in order to be as successful as you possibly can be, irregardless of what your position is at a dealership. And this is through real life experience. I have rest face. Have you ever noticed that? I have rest and bitch face. Have you ever noticed that? You always look so happy and smiley and shit, and I always look like I'm fucking miserable. Why is that?
Because you're a dick. Let me ask you this, Anthony. Do you want to win? I'm going to see how I phrase this. Do you want to win worse or win more than you want to lose, or lose worse than you want to win? Does that make sense? How I'm not saying that right. What's more important to you, not losing or winning?
Is there a difference? What's the difference? I'm not sure that I not winning and losing, I think I hate equally. What's the difference between not winning and, do I want to win worse than I want to not lose? So let's think about this. If I go to the casino and I put $1,000 on black, if black doesn't hit, it makes me a lot more unhappy than I could ever be happy from it hitting. This is why I don't gamble. If I go to the casino tonight and I lose $1,000, it will bother me more than the happiness that would ever come from winning $1,000. And this is why I don't think I ever had a gambling problem. So does that answer your question?
Wanting to win focuses on growth, taking risks, and innovation. Not wanting to lose, loss aversion. That's probably not what I was talking about, but loss aversion focuses on defense, error prevention, and survival.
I don't play defense. I'm 100.
That's not quite what I was going. I was like, what motivates you more, wanting to win or not wanting to lose?
I want to win. I mean, look, let's phrase this way, right? I think not wanting to lose would be a fear of rejection, which would prevent someone from doing something in the first place, right? I'm not going to do this because I'm too afraid to lose. I don't give a fuck about.
Yeah, I'm talking about once you've already started, though. Let's not talk about getting started, because I agree, because then you get into loss aversion. Like, I won't do it because if I don't do it, I can't lose.
Yeah, I mean, I can just tell you, for me, I want to win. I want to win at everything I do.
So loving to win versus hating to lose. You think you want to win more than you don't want to lose?
In everything that I've ever done in my life, like, for example, when I was lifting and I was lifting heavy, I had to be the strongest person in the gym. It didn't matter what I had to do. If I'm selling cars, I want to sell more cars than anybody. If I own a dealership, I want to sell more cars than anybody in the state. I mean, I don't know necessarily why I am the way that I am. I can tell you that I obsess on things. I mean, and I think you know that about me. I'm extremely obsessive, irregardless of what it is I'm doing. So I would say that, to answer your question, I'm more interested in winning than I am afraid to lose.
Well, Psychology Today says that wanting or not wanting to lose causes higher anxiety, higher stress levels, greater likelihood of burnout, difficulty bouncing back from setbacks. In contrast, approach-orientated individuals, love to win mindset, demonstrated a 23% better performance outcome and maintained higher levels of intrinsic motivation, especially after facing challenges. So loving to win, according to Psychology Today, apparently is a better mindset.
It's very, I'm going to be honest with you, though. I have a little bit of both of those things. Okay.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to lose. I am more, although there's been times in my life where I don't want to lose is in the back of my mind. And it's funny, as I read that, I can feel the anxiety of, shit, if I lose, I'm going to lose my house, my wife, my kids, whatever. And that anxiety's there, versus if I'm trying to win, it almost forces you to be optimistic. So anytime.
That's exactly what I thought when you said it. When you started reading it, I had the same feelings. And that was what made me say, no, I have a little bit of both of those things. And so, I don't know, to answer your question, then, which one motivates me. I can tell you that there have been times where I've had setbacks that have really caused me some serious mental distress. And I had to sit down at one time in my life and really learn about the benefits of failure, because I had gone through 2 or 3 really bad decisions that I really beat myself up about for a long time. And so I had to sit down and think about all the different things that I learned from those poor decisions that led to me failing and how I was going to correct them. And so I think now, with the new company that I've started, all the lessons that I've learned about failure have put me in this unique situation where failure is much more difficult because I've learned so much from my previous failures.
Yeah, and I don't even think I look at things as failure now, although, depending on how catastrophic it is, whatever, but I think I really have shifted that mindset to, it's just learning. It's just a learning experience. Now, granted, if the dealership went under, et cetera, I mean, that would be a little on the catastrophic side, probably mess with my mind a little bit. But even then, I feel like I would try and find that positive and that learning experience from it. And starting over doesn't scare me. And it's funny because I've had conversations with Carrie about that. I'm like, man, I've been like dead broke in the negative twice in my life, and I've managed to bounce back, and I'm only 47 now. So I think starting over, as you get older, obviously it becomes a little more fearful. Like if I lost everything now, it'd be a little concerning at almost 50. That's hard to say out loud, but it's also doesn't terrify me versus Carrie, who's never really had to hit reset on her life. It terrifies her. Having to start over. I don't know. I feel like I'd find a way to come out on top again.
If I'm honest with you, am terrified of losing everything. Not necessarily because of not believing I could get it back, but the person that I would have to become in order to get it back. So a lot of times I'm more afraid of myself than I am ever a situation, right? Like, for example, if I'm walking down the street, I'm not scared of somebody assaulting my wife. I'm scared of what I would do to somebody that assaulted my wife. And so there's a big difference between those two things because, when I started Hampstead Pre-Owned, the person that I was is very different than the person I am today. Now, with that being said, I think that I've learned a lot.
You could go back and be that person, the work ethic of that person with new leadership skills, and it would take you a third of the time to get back to it.
That's right. You're absolutely right. I that's exactly what I was going to say, and you're 100% right. 100%. 100%.
There. Even for me, like running, moving up through the ranks of the car business, your work is different. I don't want to say, like as a GM, you're lazy or anything. It's just different. You're in your office, you're managing reports, you're managing people who manage people. And, then I had the 5 stores, which was a little bit even higher level. And then I come here where I'm emptying the trash. I clean the bathrooms on Sundays. I answer a ton of leads. I do a bunch of phone calls and content. I'm signing the checks. I'm doing everything short of, probably don't want me working on a car, but everything else I'm doing, ordering parts, dispatching work, setting up transport, doing the arbitrations at the auction, literally everything. So I went from, we'll just say, not working as much to all of a sudden working from 6 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night and feel like I'm still not getting everything done. So the shift is possible, but I'll be honest, I love it. Like I literally love it. I miss my family. I miss certain aspects of it, but I also see that there's last month I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, like it's there. So I feel really good about that. We're building a good team, and I know that I'll eventually get to that point where I won't have to do everything. Not that I'll work less hard or I'll care less or anything like that. I just won't have to do everything. And that'll be better for the store, because right now, me doing everything, problems happen. I can't keep track of everything. I can't do this, can't do that. So now we've started to build our staff. I've got a couple of sales managers. I've got a service manager. I've got an incredible office staff. So I can focus on the things that are super important for my role, which currently is buying cars. That's the most important thing, I think, for me. And then manage the managers who are doing some of those other things. But it's just a different season. You could shift what you're doing, whatever you are, and that dog's still in there. You could pull that dog back out if you had to.
Yeah. I'll tell you that for me, one of the most interesting things that has happened over the last few years is the steps that I've taken kind of back and away from the dealership and allowed through the development of leaders within the dealership to take on more and more and more responsibility. I do have an interesting question for you that I have wondered for a long time. And I'm not sure that you're going to be able to answer it, but I often wondered to myself, if you took a person like me who was ultra successful in the independent space, and you put them into a situation in a new car store, that was, let's say, a medium performing new car store, how would the positions transition? I can tell you from my personal belief that, and what I've seen, New car managers, used car managers that work at new car stores and GMs do not transition well into the independent space. They don't. As a matter of fact, I am so thankful that I did not have the experience in the new car world and the used car world and as a GM as I transitioned into the independent space, because I got to learn everything from the ground up with an independent mindset. But I have over the years watched countless people fail. Countless. When I say countless, I'm talking about 99% of the people that have tried to open up. Yeah. So my question to you is, how would the transition happen the other way? I don't think it ever happens the other way, because a lot of the guys obviously that are successful in the independent world don't ever go back to working for someone else. But my question is, how would that transition go? I mean, you being on both sides of it, right? I've had people that are GMs tell me, Anthony, you know, if you ever got into being a GM, you'd be ultra successful. Your job is much harder. But I am curious to know what your opinion is now that you've done both.
The new car world's easier. So probably breeds a little bit of, I don't want to say laziness, but you're not fighting a fist fight every single day. And I'll just use inventory as an example, and you can relate to this. At a new car store, and we talk about this with the acquisition tool, at a new car store, you get a lot of trades, a lot of lease returns, you buy a couple of enterprise cars, and then you might go buy a couple at the auction. But that's it. Here, we buy every damn car. And you've got to fight for it. You got to find the right. Obviously, you keep your hand up long enough, you can buy whatever you want. You got to find the right deal, the right product, the right day supply, get it back, ship it, recon it, arbitrate it, send it back. It is intense. And it was one of those things, actually had this conversation today, that I knew in my mind, this part of the deal, the procurement of inventory, is going to be harder. But until you do it, you realize, whoa. So it's similar to, like I said, I'm on my fourth service manager in a year and a half. I've had franchise guys, and they have service advisors. They have a warranty clerk. They've got probably 5 girls in the office to help them out. And here for us, it is, you don't have any service advisors. Frankly, the service manager job is probably, at my store, your store is big enough to where you've got a parts and a service guy. But at my store, my service manager job is probably 70% parts, 30% dispatch, really is what it is. And a lot of these franchise guys can't transition to that. It's that shift is tough. But I think that it's definitely harder in the independent world. You're trying to make a name for yourself. There's 45 to 60,000 independent dealerships and 15,000 new car dealerships or whatever. There's significantly more. You've got the reputation of having a bow tie or a blue oval on the front of your building. We don't have that. We don't have the factory running commercials during the baseball games and all of those things. So it is significantly harder on the independent side. And I think it would be difficult, and it is, case in point here, to transition from franchise to independent. I think the transition from independent to franchise would be way easier. It reminds me of, I went to work at a Mercedes store in LA, a massive Mercedes store. In December, we sold 600 new Mercedes. And the sales guy, I remember he was looking across the parking lot, and I said, hey, there's a customer over there. Will you go help him? He goes, oh, he's looking at C-classes. I'm not interested. And I just come from a Chrysler store. And anybody who knows anything, Chrysler is like the redheaded stepchild of the domestics. You've got 15 different owners. Like they have a different owner every year, Mercedes and Cerebus and, Daimler and whoever it is now for the Fiat. And we would literally fist fight to try and get car deals. Like we dug in and, it was intense. And I just remember thinking, this was a massive Mercedes store, very successful. And I just remember thinking, if I had my Chrysler reps here selling Mercedes, we wouldn't sell 600, we'd sell 1,200 because they'd be digging in. These Mercedes reps are like, it's a C-class, I'm not interested. And it just blew my mind. And so I think there's a lot of complacency on the new car side. And I'll be frank with you, I get a lot of deals from new car dealerships because we are digging in, we're working hard, where that new car dealership pulls it up, it's a 550 credit score, not interested, too much work, I'll send it to one bank, got turned down, move on to the next one. Versus us, I mean, every single customer matters to me. It's live or die. I don't have parts income. I don't have service income, not yet. Hopefully, everything is sales, and I do have to remind that to my technicians and to my service team is that hey, we don't, the service department doesn't wag the tail around here like some franchise stores. Everything matters about the sales department. If we don't sell a car, we don't pay the bills. Everything. So you got to take care of that customer. You got to do this. You got to do that. And that's a bit of a shift. It's hard for the franchise guys. I'll admit you're spot on. It's a difficult transition to go from franchise to independent. It would be much easier to go from independent to franchise. Now, what you wouldn't like, especially you, is having the factory come in and go, I know you just built this building 4 years ago, but we need to put in gray tile that looks very similar to the gray tile you've got, but it's a little different. And, oh, the light bulbs, you need to go from, this color light bulb to the bright white light. I mean, just mind-numbing bullshit that does not help sell a car. And the way that the factory shifts here, and you don't have a choice. You can't pick your website provider. Here's your 3 choices. You can pick one of those. Those things, being an independent dealer where we can do whatever we want within legal, guidelines, that part would be very difficult for you to transition to. Having some dipshit at the factory tell you how to sell more cars when that motherfucker's never stepped foot in a fucking dealership to sell a car in his entire life.
Yeah, I've often wondered about this, and one of the things that I think is interesting is that on the independent side, because of how much smaller you are, your people are so required to be cross-trained and busy and work with intent. And when you're at a new car store, just like you talked about, you don't necessarily have to be cross-trained and work with as much intent. And so you end up in this situation where sometimes I have friends in different new car stores and we go over there, and don't get me wrong, there are some people that work exceptionally hard. But what's really interesting is those people that work exceptionally hard so far outshine the people that are under them. It's like government work almost, right? Like you have these people that work really, really hard that just, they kill it, they crush it. And this has always been my opinion on why at every single store you have 1 or 2 salespeople that are ultra successful. It's not necessarily because they've been there for a long time, but that can play into it. You'll find that they're really hungry, they're really motivated, they have more of an independent mindset, and so they work for themselves, and they'll end up becoming ultra successful. So one of the things I want to share with any of the salespeople that are watching this right now or listening to this is this. It is so easy to be successful in today's world if you have a little bit of grit. If you have a little bit of grit, a little bit of determination, and you're willing to do what it takes, you will be ultra successful because there are so many people who just aren't willing to put in the work.
Yeah, it's crazy. The bar is so low that it does not take much to outshine. And that goes to my dealers as well. And first off, I just want to preface, we are not bashing new car stores at all. It's a different mindset. They're bigger. They have more employees. People are specialized in one job, so we're not bashing them by any stretch of the means. But I do believe it is a tough transition to come over to an independent used car dealership, much harder than it would be to go sell new cars.
I'll tell you a story. I used to have this guy that worked for me named John, and he was selling like 45 to 60 cars a month. I think I told you this story. And he came to me, and we work on a high volume, low per car deal type thing, right? So at my store, if you're selling 50 cars, you're going to make good money. But, a lot of times you'll go around, you go to a new car store, and it's like they pay triple what you pay on a car. And I'm like, okay, go check it out, see what it is, right? And then John left, and he sold 6 cars at this new car store. Same hours, same person, but he sold 6 cars. The business is just different. It's totally different. And so I was just curious what your opinion was on transitioning between the two dealerships. Now, I think over the years, as we've grown and we've grown and we've grown, we've become a little bit more close to a new car store than we were.
I would like to say that probably started with me. I remember coming to your store going, holy shit, dude, this is a dealership. Like you have a parts department, you have a service department, like you body shop, you operate as a dealership. but it is different. And I tell that to people when I interview them. I'm like, you walk into my, like, it's the old Toyota store. So it looks like a dealership. We've got a showroom floor, we've got a shop, we've got an office, we've got finance offices. But when you sit down and you start to work, it is different. And it might take you a while before you go, yeah, this is just a little different. But I love it. I don't want to talk in definites, but I can't imagine going back to a franchise store. I think if I did, I would crush it. Like that Chevy store in Tulsa that I did not get, man, we would have blown the roof off of it. But you know what? I am where I am for a reason. And if I ever do get a franchise store, I will run it differently. I wouldn't say wholesale change differently, but I would definitely run it differently. And I would have a much higher performing used car department if I had a franchise store. Can promise you that. We would change a lot in the recon process, the procurement of parts, procurement of inventory, some of those stuff that you just don't take risks and gamble on. Man, I mean, we would sell a lot more cars for sure. A lot more used cars.
Well, Mr. Josh, we've been on for 55 minutes and 50 seconds. I think that was a hell of a show, and I'm looking forward to next week, brother.
Yeah, I can't wait. When are we going to, and maybe we should ask the people, both people who are watching right now, your wife and mine, we should ask who,
Megan has to watch.
Yeah. Who do we want to get on? Do we want to start interviewing some vendors, some demoing some products? I know you and I over this last year, the sheer amount of products that we have looked at is probably more than most people see in an entire career. We have looked at about everything. We've tried everything. We've run 2 IMSs at the same time. I mean, we've done some things that I think there's a lot of people out there that could learn from the mistakes that we made, the products that we looked at, the ones we liked, didn't like. So I think we should probably, start talking about that too. I think there's a lot that people can learn from that.
So I think what Josh is saying is if you have a company inside of the automotive space and you'd like to come on as a guest, reach out to us. We'd love to have you. If you're a salesperson, manager, just somebody that wants to get on the podcast and shoot the shit, let us know. I do have a direct challenge for anyone that's listened to this podcast. I want you to pick up this book. I want you to read it. It will
I have to
change
see
your
if I have that on audio
And if you read it and you love it and you want to come on the show and discuss it, I would love to have you on the show and discuss it with you, because I swear to God, this book will change your life if you're in the automotive industry. As a matter of fact, he talks about how he infiltrated some different car dealerships to learn the psychology behind how we influence people to buy cars. And he talks about that, and he talks about the psychology behind why people make the decisions that they make, which is absolutely crucial. So my action item for you this week is to buy this book, Influence, and to read it. And if you read it and you want to come on the show and talk about it, we'd love to have you.
I love it. Right on.